All right, everybody, we are live. Welcome back. Today, I am super excited to have Don Hennig with me today from AccrueMe. How's it going, Don?
It's going great. Thanks, Gary.
Excellent, excellent. So today, Don is going to give a live masterclass on how to double your Amazon inventory without a traditional loan. Okay. And I know that for a lot of Amazon sellers, myself included, like as we're growing our business, as we're scaling up, one of the biggest bottlenecks to that is cash, right? Because, as you're selling more, for example, in Q4, you got to place bigger orders from your suppliers so you have enough inventory in stock so you don't go out of stock. So, there's a lot of ways to do this. And I wanted to invite Don because he has a very unique model that he's going to introduce to everyone on the call today in the live training. And before we begin, we are live. So if you guys can see and hear us, would you please type your name and where you're watching from in the chat, just so we know that this is working properly, because we are live and, Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. So while we're doing that, I'd like to quickly introduce Don. Don Hennig is a serial entrepreneur. He has decades of successes and failures. Okay, he is a real entrepreneur in real estate, in finance, in publishing, and even in entertainment in Hollywood. And he's financed over $100 billion. And in terms of real estate, he's bought and sold over 300 homes, and he's built and sold a number of companies. And now he's coming out of retirement to help sellers in the Amazon space with AccrueMe. So he's going to explain some of your options when it comes to financing and growing your business. Okay. So before we begin, just some quick shout outs. So let's see. We have Denise from New Zealand. Hey, Denise. David from New Jersey. Melissa. John from Santa Barbara. Carol. Aloha from Hawaii. We have Peter from Sydney. We have Wendy from New Zealand, Melissa from Orange County, Brownwin from Australia. Excellent. So welcome. We have a global, worldwide audience. That's what I love about this. And Don, where are you calling from today, by the way? I'm in Japan. Where are you calling from?
I know. I'm in New York.
New York.
I grew up in Brooklyn, and now I live on Long Island.
Perfect. Yeah. And before we begin, Don, I know you have such a wealth of experience. Can you share with us today, how did you decide to enter the e-commerce space?
I'm a little crazy, I guess, right? Truthfully, Gary, it was not anything I had planned. What happened was I was on a train coming out of Manhattan, and I thought of an old friend of mine in the mortgage industry from like 30 years before. We hadn't spoken in 20 years. And I just thought of him, and I'm a big believer that if you think of somebody, drop them a note. And I went on LinkedIn, and I sent him a little note. I just said, hey, I hope everything's well. And he responded back, let's have lunch. So we did. And then, it just continued from there, having lunch or dinner every, couple of weeks or a month. And he kept pitching me on different ideas. And I kept telling him, I'm retired. My golf game is getting good. My wife and I and kids love being out boating. We're on Long Island, surrounded by water. We're always out on the water. We live on a lake. This is what we do. I don't need to get back into the business anymore. You don't even think about it. And then one day he brought up Amazon, and my ears got a little perked up on that. And we started talking about it. So I went to my accountants and started asking them if they knew any sellers, and they did. So they introduced me to a few sellers, and I asked them some basic questions. I found that the smallest sellers and the largest sellers all had one thing in common. They needed money. And so we started talking about that, and we looked at all the lending options. I looked at them personally. I didn't like anything I saw. When I ran the numbers, I felt, and I saw the numbers that the lenders were always going to make a lot of money, and that most of those programs were set up for the sellers not to make any money. And I didn't like it. So I really thought, we shouldn't do this, because I won't do something unless it's good for whoever I'm working with. And my partner, Eric, said, well, what if we partnered with the sellers? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I don't know. Let's talk about it. So we brainstormed over the next couple of months this idea that became AccrueMe. That's extremely innovative. People say I'm crazy for doing it because I could have done it much more lucrative for us. But I think we put together a great program that's good for the sellers and good for us.
Excellent. Yeah.
That's it.
And then, yeah, perfect. Thanks for that introduction. And so Don's gonna give a training on how to double your Amazon inventory without a traditional loan. And I think it's a very unique perspective. And he's also going to discuss what your funding opportunities are outside of a traditional loan, the power of reinvesting your profits. I know a lot of people had questions about that. And also he's going to explain about the model of AccrueMe and what sort of Amazon sellers would qualify for this. Okay. And then we'll also have time for a Q&A, questions and answers following the presentation. And thank you all for submitting your questions. We had over 60 questions. We won't have time to address all of them, but I'll try to do my best to try to group them together. And then if you have any questions at the end, please type them in the chat box. And also, I'd like to welcome Segar from London and Nancy and Kristen from California. Great to have you guys.
All right.
Okay, so without further ado, Don, would you like to go ahead and begin the show?
Sure. I'll share my screen in 1 second. I will tell you, as far as the questions go, I read through them all, and I think most of them are going to be addressed in the presentation. So I tried to adjust it that way as well. So let's see how I do with sharing my screen.
Perfect.
Let's see here. Here we go. I'm getting there. Here we go.
All right.
Okay. So let's get started. So without repeating everything that Gary said, AccrueMe is very unique. It's how to double your Amazon inventory without a traditional loan, with zero interest, zero monthly payments. And the thing I hear so often from people is, what's the catch? And so we're going to get into that, and you'll see there is no catch, but it sounds too good to be true sometimes. So here, let's keep going. All right. Come on, there we go. Okay, so what the purpose of the presentation is, as Gary said, we're going to provide an overview of leverage, financial leverage, and the power of reinvesting, and about AccrueMe as well. We're going to give you details on AccrueMe so you really understand it. I think it's going to be pretty simple once we explain it. We're going to give you some examples, which always help, and then the requirements to participate. How do you get in? And then we'll open up for Q&A. All right, so the power of reinvesting your profits, and it really is very, very powerful. So let's first look at an example of someone not reinvesting, okay? So what would it look like? Let's say that seller has $10,000 in capital. And when I say capital, what I mean throughout this presentation, capital is your inventory at cost plus whatever is due from Amazon. Okay, so let's call that $10,000. And let's say that you can earn 15% ROI on that $10,000, and that you're going to turn it every 30 days, just for simplicity's sake, okay? So that means you're going to earn $1,500 in a month or $18,000 in a year. So you're not reinvesting, you still have $10,000 in capital invested in your business, but you were able to pull out $1,500 a month, to live on, to, pay your rent, or certainly not in New York, but to pay your rent, to, put some food on the table. But now let's look at reinvesting profits. How would you do? And, somebody might say, all right, maybe you do, almost double, maybe a little bit less, whatever. So you're going to be compounding profits. And I think many of you have heard the quote from Einstein where he talks about compounding interest as being the eighth wonder of the world. Well, they never thought about compounding profits, but that's what we're all about. That's what AccrueMe is all about, compounding profits and all about growth, seller growth. All right. So over 12 months, instead of $18,000, you would have earned $45,000. All right. So by compounding profits, what that means is the $10,000 that you start with, you earn 15%, $1,500. So in month two, you have $11,500 invested in inventory. So over that 12 months, you're going to earn $45,000 instead of $18,000. That's pretty powerful. And I call it the FBA dilemma. What do you do? Do you reinvest all your profits, or do you pull the profits out so you can eat and pay your rent and pay your car lease and whatever else? And it is a dilemma. And I think we have the answer to that. And I'm going to show it to you as we go through this. All right. So leverage. We're going to talk about financial leverage today, or other people's money, OPM. Big thing in real estate is OPM, using other people's money. But leverage either way. Okay. So how do you use other people's money to your benefit? So as a general rule, all the major companies, every major company you know of, even if they're flush with cash, whether it be Apple or Google or whoever, they're using other people's money. They're borrowing money all the time because they're making money. So if you're making money, if you're making a profit, it makes sense to leverage that profit, to leverage that up. So to use other people's money so you can earn more of a profit. Okay, that's how you use leverage. If you're losing money or breaking even, please don't use leverage. It would be the worst thing that would happen. If you're losing $1,000 and you double your capital with using leverage, you're going to lose $2,000. Don't do it. Only to grow, earning a profit. You're not going to make up a loss with more units. Okay. So let's look at an example, and I think this will drive it home. And we're going to look at something outside of the e-commerce world. We're going to look at, who knew? Homes, all right? Real estate, something I think most people understand. All right, so we're going to talk about just buying a simple house with $100,000. I think we have 3 people in California. Nobody in California is buying a house with $100,000. But let's just say we can do that for argument's sake, okay? And we're going to have 2 buyers. Bob, he's going to put all his money down. He's got $100,000, and he's going to put it down, and he's going to buy it for cash. And then we have Mary. She's going to borrow $95,000. So she's only going to use $5,000 of her $100,000. Okay, they both have the same amount of money to start. So she's using leverage, financial leverage. And now the house increases in value just 5%. Not a huge number, but it's $5,000. So this is a rhetorical question here, but who had the better ROI, Bob or Mary? And you know the answer already, but let's look at the numbers. The home price was $100,000 for both of them. Bob put down 100, Mary put down 5. Mary took out a mortgage for 95. The value increased $5,000 for both of them. So Mary had an ROI of $100,000. Bob only 5%. I'm sorry, 100%. And Bob only 5%. It sounds good and it's real, but let's look at it a little bit deeper. We know that Bob had a $5,000, 5% ROI. Mary had 100% ROI. But did you think about that Mary still has $95,000? Right? So assuming she did the same thing with the other 95,000 as she did with the first 5,000, she wouldn't have bought a house. She would have bought a neighborhood. I'm a New Yorker, so it doesn't come out so good. A neighborhood. So with that being said, she would have had $2 million of real estate working for her. That increased at just 5%. So she would have earned $100,000, 100% ROI on her money. Okay, so that's the way leverage works. So now let's combine the two. Well, before we do that, I don't want to gloss over that leverage carries some risks. Mary had risks, and let's look at it. She had on all of those homes, she had to sign a personal guarantee. Whether you realize it or not, when you borrow from a bank, really when you borrow from any lender, you're signing personally. So, if something goes wrong, they're not just going to come after your business or that one house. They're going to go after all your houses. So Mary put everything at risk. If things went sour, she would lose not just one house, but they would go after all of them, including the house that she lives in. Her credit would be ruined. And not for anything I've been involved with people that have gone through, lousy credit situations where they were losing their home. And it's a horrible, horrible thing. And, sleepless nights is an understatement. But if it works, she'll do much, much better. So the idea is that how do you use leverage to your benefit without taking on all the risks? That would be the ultimate. So let's keep going. Let's look at combining reinvestment, right? But let's just reinvest 75% of the profits, and let's use leverage at the same time. I think you'll find this interesting. You'll get the picture real quick. So now you don't have $10,000 of capital anymore. You've got 20,000. Okay, so you have a bigger business. You have to work harder. That means finding the products. It's not just a flip of the switch. You have to work harder. This is not an easy thing. Let's say the ROI is 15%, turn time 30 days, same as before. You reinvest 75% of the profits, all right? Because remember, you have a bigger company now. You don't have to take out everything. You're going to take out 25% of the profits so you can live. And let's look at the results at the end of 2 years. How would you have done? With no leverage, pretty good. $166,000. Now, this is assuming that you left everything in. 166,000 with $42,000. I'm sorry, that you pulled out $42,000. You'd still be left with $166,000. So you pulled out 25% as you went. So overall, you earned $208,000. Not bad. Now with leverage, you have $279,000 plus $70,000 that you pulled out to live on. So you earned roughly $350,000. All right, not bad, much better. The combining of reinvesting and leverage enables you to pull out even more money and end up with more money. So anybody thinking about this has to throw in another calculation here, right? Where what's the cost of that capital? So in this case, you could see, I'm just going to call it, $140,000 difference. So if the cost of that $10,000 was less than $140,000, you're doing okay. If it was $50,000, you're doing very good. If it was $25,000, you're doing amazing. So I'm just doing that at a very high level. You can see is $140,000 difference from the 208 to the 349. So as long as your cost of capital is less than that difference, you're doing okay. You want it extremely less. So let's move on and we'll get there. Okay. What are the standard sources of OPM, other people's money? Credit cards. All right. So typically credit cards carry high rates. They'll limit you on the amounts, so you'll have to get multiple credit cards. And you start repaying them immediately. Typically, the minimum payment on credit cards is 5%. So if you have $100,000 of credit cards, you have a $5,000 a month payment minimum. And that's never a smart thing to do. However, and I do know there are 0% credit cards out there, and they're okay for some purposes. If you're using them and your suppliers are charging you 3%, it's not okay. You're technically getting like a 30%, 36% interest charge there. So credit cards typically increase your monthly expenses. And truthfully, anybody that's ever had high credit cards, it's tough to sleep. I use credit cards all the time. My wife hates that I do it, but I do. But I pay them off every single month. I only use 2 cards, and that's it. One primary and one secondary. Some people are good enough to build a business using credit cards. It means building a spreadsheet, knowing which ones to pay off and when you have to move a balance from this card to that card to save money. It gets complicated. In my mind, that's a business all of its own, and it's not where I want to put my energy on. How do I, save money or make money or not get killed by credit cards? So I don't suggest it. In fact, I did a search not long ago on how to pay off credit cards on Google, and do you know how many hits there were? 2.5 billion hits. That's how many people are looking at how can I pay off my credit cards. It's not a good idea for most people. All right, merchant lenders. These are the ones that are primary in our industry, okay? They carry very high rates, which I don't really care too much about the rates. But what they also do is they have very short terms, anywhere from 4 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And that's what causes a very high payment. So it's like going back to the example with Mary. If she had to pay that $95,000 mortgage off in 6 months or 12 months, she never could have done it. She would have been in a world of hurt. It would have been very, very, very bad for her. And as I said to Gary earlier, when I started reviewing getting into the Amazon world and building AccrueMe, we looked at the lending options. And I found that, let's say you're earning 15% on a $10,000 deal, and now you borrow $10,000, so you're going to earn another 15%, right? So $1,500. The ones that I looked at had payments of $1,800, $1,850. So you're going to lose money every month. Made no sense to me. I didn't like it. All right, so here's the third one I'm going to talk about, and it's family and friends. You should get the best terms from family and friends. I'm sure we can all agree. If you had that rich uncle and whatever. But you can also expect when you go to a family meal or a family dinner or a family gathering, they're going to ask you questions about your business. And if you had a bad day or a bad week, and anybody and everybody in this business or any business has bad days and bad weeks and bad months. It's just the reality of owning your own business. So when they start asking you questions and things are not going so well at that moment, it's a lousy, lousy feeling. It's nothing I wish on anybody. So yes, best terms, but there's some negatives to it. So let's stay with that. And what would be the best deal that you could get from that rich uncle, okay? Your family and friends. Here's what I want, all right? If I'm in your shoes, what would I ask for? I want you to double the money I have in my business. Okay, that's a pretty good ask. I don't want any interest, no rate at all. And I don't want to pay any payments. I'm not going to sign a personal guarantee because this is a business transaction. Okay. But what I will do is I'll share a percentage of the profits with you. But I'm only going to pay you when it's good for me and my business. Okay. Like certainly in Q4 and Q3, I'm not paying you anything because I need every penny to build. But, come February, March, April, I'll probably make some payments if I think it's a good idea for me. And no discussion of business at family dinners. Okay, that's the deal. I think it's a pretty good deal. All right, so Gary already talked about me a little bit. I won't go into it. The one thing I will say here is on LinkedIn. So if you do look me up on LinkedIn, and see some of the things that I've done, and feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to do it. It's my full name, Donald Hennig. You have to act as if you're my mother, Donald. And again, as Gary said, I came out of retirement. I've retired 3 times. This last time was for 5 years, and I thought it was done. I thought I was done. I literally thought that was it. And so did my kids and my wife. But here I am again, working my ass off like all of you. All right, so let's look at AccrueMe on a high level, okay? And I hope I'm not going too fast here. But how AccrueMe began, I think, Gary asked me that question when we started, so I already answered that, so I won't dig into it again. What I will tell you is that once we put the plan together, we went out, we knew we needed money. We knew Amazon, sellers, there was a huge market, so we needed capital. So we went to one hedge fund and we pitched them on what we're doing. And we didn't expect to get money from them. We expected them to ask us so many good questions and teach us things that we didn't think of, and force us to think about things outside the box a little bit differently than we did. Anyway, 6 weeks later, they gave us $1 million in working capital and $100 million to invest in Amazon sellers. I guess the plan makes sense. So here's the deal. We have $100 million burning a hole in our pockets. That literally, we need to get it out on the street. We need to help. We need some help here. So I appreciate Gary doing this. All right. And the last thing I'll say here at a high level about AccrueMe is the model is very simple, but it's new. It's not something like here's the interest rate and it's something that's been done for literally 2,000 years. Everybody would understand that. If I came here with an interest rate and a repayment program, everybody would understand it. This is simpler than all of that. You don't need a calculator so much for this. This is basic, but it's not as intuitive because we just haven't been doing it for many years. Many people I've talked to believe that the future of finance is AccrueMe. So you'll make your own decision on that. Okay, and too good to be true. Yep, that's what I hear all the time. People say to me, it sounds too good to be true. I actually had one seller say to me early on, I didn't have a good comeback. He said to me, my accountant said it sounds too good to be true. And if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I'm like, it probably is too good to be true, but it's true. So anyway, you tell me if it sounds too good to be true, but it's all true. All right, so here's what we'll do. It's going to sound a little bit like that perfect deal from your family member. We will double your capital with no monthly payments, all right? And no loss of ownership. And trust me, even sellers have told me I was stupid for doing that, that I should absolutely take a percentage of ownership, even if it's 1 or 2%, that when all of these sellers cash out in a few years, I should make a windfall there. We don't want to do it. We want this to be in the seller's benefit. So no loss of ownership. Plus, we'll give you additional funds each month if you want. No personal guarantee. It's a business transaction. That's it. We're looking at the business. We're not looking at you individually. Zero interest, no interest rate at all. We don't look at a credit report and we don't report to credit agencies. We don't look at your tax returns and we don't ask for financial statements either. All we ask for is a simple, temporary, all right? Temporary is a key word there. Share of profits for as long as you use our funds. I think it's pretty fair. So I put down here, I'm glad I did because it just reminded me of something, that we only win, AccrueMe only wins when you win. If you earn a profit, we earn a profit. If you don't earn a profit, we don't earn a profit. No lender in the world is going to have a deal like that, all right? So we're reversing the risk here. We're taking on more risk than you are, actually. So there is one way that you can lose. Let me see if I put that in here. I'm going to go back. So I don't know if I mentioned this later or not, but I do want to mention one way that you can lose, because you really can't lose with AccrueMe except for one thing, one way. And that one way is if you take our money and you leave it in the bank. You don't invest it into inventory. If you leave it in the bank, then what are you doing? You're paying us a percentage of profits and you're not getting any benefit for that. We don't want you to do that. So I was explaining to Gary, if we, approve somebody for $100,000, you use that as the number, and they need $20,000 right now, take $20,000, don't take 100. Come back next week, next month, 6 months from now, and say, I need another 10 or another 20, another 50, whatever it is. The money is there. We'll give it to you the same day. The mistake you would make is taking more than you need. So we've had people that have taken $20,000 and with this little speech, and we give this speech to everybody, they've come back and say, okay, I'd like to take $5,000 now. And they do. And 3 or 4 weeks later, they come back and say, I'd like another 5,000. Boom, done. And then a few weeks later, another 5,000. And before you know it, their business is booming and they're comfortable and they understand the system. And now they're asking, can I get more money? Can I get $20,000 more? And things like that. So it's exciting, but go slow. It's this, be safe, just whatever you take, use it. That's the one advice I'll give you. See, you can't lose if you're using it and you're making money. Okay, so our theory is very simple. We know finance. My partner, Eric, is a Wharton graduate, all right? I pick smart people. He's also a lawyer. I know how to pick partners, but we know finance. You know Amazon. We want to help you. We really do. We want to help you grow. And we want to tag along for some of the profits. That's our model. That's our theory. That's what we're in here to do. Okay, so how does the profit split work? We got about 5 or 10 minutes left here, just so you know. So this is really the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. how do we make money as AccrueMe? What's the profit split? Okay. So this sentence here is key. So, read it with me if you don't mind. AccrueMe earns half. Half is the key word there. Half of the AccrueMe capital percentage. What is the AccrueMe capital percentage? Remember in the example, the seller had $10,000. And then we put up another $10,000. So that means there's $20,000 now, right? So AccrueMe represents 50% of that, $10,000 out of the 20. So our capital percentage is 50%, 50. So we earn half of that, right? So if AccrueMe has a capital percentage of 30%, let's say you have $7,000 and AccrueMe gives you $3,000, so you have 10 now in total. AccrueMe represents 30% of your capital. AccrueMe gets 15% of the profits, okay? Half of 30. If AccrueMe puts up 50%, 10,000, 10,000, AccrueMe gets 25% of the profits in that month. Here's a key thing to remember. This is not perpetual. This is month to month. We review and analyze the capital every month. So, and we give you a system so you can see the whole thing and every calculation. Nobody's had a problem with it. So you'll see exactly what your capital is, exactly what our capital is, exactly the profit percentages, and it's clear as day. And it changes month to month. And what I'll show you in a little while, which is natural, as your business grows, AccrueMe's capital percentage declines. Again, people call us nuts for doing that, but it's pretty cool. All right. So AccrueMe capital and profit percentage. This is the maximum that we can earn. The maximum that we're going to put into your business is 50%. So we will only match your capital. We will not go over that. If you have $10,000, we're not giving you 11. We'll give you 10. And we would earn half of that, 25% in profits for that month. Hope that's clear. All right. So if you're earning a profit, again, back to leverage, then leveraging your capital makes sense. And having no required payments enables you to grow that much faster. And that's what AccrueMe is all about, is growth. If you're looking for money to make it from, 1 week to the next, or, bridge the gap before you get your money from Amazon, that's not us. If you're looking to grow your business and really grow the business, that's what AccrueMe is for. This is growth capital. Okay. I hope I made that clear. All right. And I also already mentioned the one way that you can lose. I always like to mention that to people so it's clear. Okay. So how about an example? This is where it becomes crystal clear. On your own, again, using $10,000, you own 100% of the capital. You have 100% of the profit. And I'm going to use the ROI of 20% just because it's easy. So you earn $2,000 in that month in profit. Not bad. But now with AccrueMe. All right, so you're going to go to $20,000 in capital. AccrueMe represents 50%, right? 10,000 and 10,000. So what's AccrueMe's profit percentage? Come on, remember, 25%, half of the 50. You get 75% this month. The ROI will keep it the same at 20%. So the new profit in this example is now $4,000. Okay. What do you keep? The seller keeps $3,000. AccrueMe got $1,000. Very, very, very happy. So look at your revised ROI now. You went from a 20% ROI to a 30% ROI, an increase of 50% with no additional risk. Think about that. You didn't take on any additional risk. I love that. All right, so it gets even better. So this is going to be in words here, so I hope you follow this, but it's important. So remember, in month 1, you earned $3,000. AccrueMe earned $1,000. What happens to the money that AccrueMe earned? Right? In month 2, you get to decide. You could say, hey, AccrueMe, take your $1,000. Or, hey, AccrueMe, let it ride. AccrueMe, let it accrue. So leave your $1,000 in. So let's look at a situation where you leave your $3,000 in and AccrueMe leaves its $1,000 in, okay? So now in month 2, remember, month 1, you started with $10,000. Now you have $24,000 to grow. to build your business from, to buy inventory, to make money. Same ROI, but now the profit's $4,800. Check this out. AccrueMe's capital percentage. Remember I said that as you grow, AccrueMe's capital percentage drops? Well, think about it. Excuse me. In the first example, AccrueMe was 50% of the capital, but you earned $3,000. So now you have $13,000 in capital, and AccrueMe has $1,000, so $11,000 in capital. Excuse me for 1 second. That's what happens when you get old. All right. So
you're doing great.
Thanks, Gary. I'm glad somebody's there. So again, we have $24,000 working. In month 2, you're earning $4,800. You have $13,000 of capital. AccrueMe 11. So now AccrueMe's capital percentage came down to 46. Profit percentage, half of that, right? 23%. So you're earning 77% of the profits in month 2. And month 2 is a lot larger than month 1. Okay, so your month 2 net profit is $3,700. Your new ROI based on $13,000 is 28%. Better than what you were doing initially, right? So in just 2 months, you earned $6,700 on your $10,000 investment. 67% ROI. I don't know what else can get you to do these things like AccrueMe. It's pretty amazing. And AccrueMe is doing great. So we love it. Now your capital after 2 months is $16,700. All right. So let's keep going here. All right. So this is a good question, really. Can you visualize your dreams? Can you start to visualize how this would all work by not having to pay interest and not having to pay monthly payments and not giving up ownership in your company? You see how it works and how you can grow much faster and much bigger. And that's why AccrueMe is for growth. It's not for working capital to bridge the gap. It's for growth. That's really that's the whole game here. All right. Last slide on all of this. It does get a little bit better. So in case you're wondering, I just went out to 4 months, okay? Because if I went out to 12 months or 24 months, the numbers get stupid. So you remember, you started with $10,000 in capital and $2,000 a month in profits. Well, in 4 months, you now have just about $27,000 in capital, almost triple. $5,600 in monthly profits, almost $17,000 in cumulative profits. It's amazing, right? And I'm going to show you the calculator we have on our site where you can input your own scenario and get your own results and see how you would do, and you can adjust it any which way you like. So here's what it looks like after 4 months. And you can just look at the numbers. You know, you went from 10,000 to 13,000 to 16,007 to 21 and a quarter. And finally, at the end of 4 months, going into month 5, you have roughly $27,000 of your own money invested in a business. I don't know what AccrueMe's number is. I didn't calculate that, but it's probably, if we started at 10 and we went to 11, maybe AccrueMe's at $14,000 or $15,000. So you'd have roughly close to $40,000 to invest in new inventory. How much money are you going to make then? That's the whole idea. So AccrueMe is not for somebody who's sitting on the sidelines and just doing this, every once in a while. AccrueMe is really for somebody that wants to grow and understands it's going to take work to grow. And that's what we want to capitalize on, your work. You're going to capitalize on our money. It's a great deal. All right. So here's the calculator. And this is going to be basically my next to last slide. So if you go to AccrueMe.com and you click on the calculator, you'll find it. But here's what it looks like. And these are the inputs. Nice and simple. And Gary, if you want, I can flip over to it and show them firsthand. In fact, I'm just going to do that while we're here. I'll show you real brief. Yeah.
That's a good
So
idea.
here's the calculator. And so you can see it's just a slider. You can put it on anything. I put it on 20%. I put it on 30 days. I put down that you're going to take out 25% for lifestyle withdrawal. How much money of the profits do you want to take out? You could change it to a fixed number and take out $1,000, let's say. And you see how the numbers all change as I'm doing this. Sure.
Oh, Don, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're currently sharing just the Google slide deck. So I think if you open up in a different window, you would have to share your screen with the new window.
Okay.
Because we don't see that.
Not really sure how to do that, Gary.
Okay. If not, maybe we can go to Q&A and then we can work on that later. And then I just shared the link with everybody. If you want to kind of test it yourself. Yeah. And we do have a couple questions. We'll get to the questions.
Yeah, I'm finishing up now.
Drew and David, we'll get to your questions. Great. Thanks for that. Okay. Let's keep going.
So you can see these are the inputs. Return on inventory, what's your ROI, and it's just a slider. And then turn time, 30 days, I put down, it's just a slider. Your lifestyle withdrawal, how much do you want to take out of the profits? Here I have 25% coming out of the profits. You can do it as a fixed dollar amount as well. And then your capital, seller capital, and how much capital do you want from AccrueMe? Let's say you had 10,000, you want $5,000 from AccrueMe. That's what you put in. If you had 100,000, you want 30,000, whatever. So it's very simple. And then you're going to get some basic charts that will show you how much you would earn on your own versus how much you would earn with AccrueMe. And on that first chart, if you remember, just put your cursor over the numbers by month and you'll see it exactly the numbers. It doesn't look like much at first because it's only a few $1,000s, but boy, it means an awful lot. And you'll see. Okay, let's finish up. So the next steps to success. Visit AccrueMe.com. Play with the calculator. Put in your own scenarios. See what you can do. I would suggest linking in with me again. Remember my mother, Donald, and the simple requirements that we put together here. Here's what we're looking for. We're looking at you're successfully selling on Amazon for 6 months or more. That you have at least $10,000 in capital. And many people say to us, you should really, put a minimum of maybe 50 grand or 100,000 even, because it is a big market. And we honestly, from day one, we said, we really want this for everybody. We don't want this just for the big guys. We want to help the guys that are in business for 6 months that are, motivated and really want to build their business and learning and doing really well. We want to help them too. This is another requirement that you're an LLC or willing to become an LLC. We've had many that were corporations that switched over to be LLCs, which there's nothing to lose by doing that. And the reason for it is that with an LLC, we can help or we can create the agreement where we can give you the money, not require payments, and not take ownership of your business. If it's a corporation, the only way we can do it is to own your business or own a good substantial piece of your business. And we don't really want to do that. We think this is a better way for you to go. So that's it. Look at that good looking guy.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much.
Had that tan.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the presentation, Don. Great stuff. And we had a couple of questions. So let's go ahead and dive into Q&A if you're okay with that. Okay. So our first question is from Drew Hart. Interesting idea. How do you track all of these terms over the life of the relationship formally?
Great question, Drew. So we built a system to do exactly that. And in fact, if you drop me a note, I'll send you, I don't think it's on our site. I'll send you a video. It's about 10 or 15 minutes long, showing you the system. And it shows you exactly how we monitor everything, what you see. You'll see it's really, really detailed. And I think you'll get a real good feel for it. Again, as I said, we've had no issues. And that's let me knock on some wood there because I don't want any issues. But the sellers that we work with have been very happy. Nobody's come back and said, this number's wrong or that number's wrong or anything like that. We tested it for quite a long time before we went live. But we have the numbers, I think, pretty nailed. That's it.
Yep. Okay, great. Thanks, Drew. And next question is from David Kim. Do you need access to our Seller Central account in order to verify sales?
Yes. So what we do is on our website, you'll see a very simple, what do we call it, funding estimator. So we used to call it a pre-approval or whatever, and basically it is just a question and answer. So we'll ask you maybe 8 or 10 questions about your business, and from there we respond instantly. It's an engine that we build, and it'll give you a good estimate of what we will offer. And if you like that, you have the option there to give us access to your system. And we don't have access to change anything or to do anything. All we have access to do is to see your inventory. We pull it into our engine. We do our own algorithms and check out how long we think it'll take to sell and what the profits we think will be. We ask you for the CPUs. And then we come back to you in about 2 days typically with a firm offer. And then we get on the phone with you. We give you a document that details everything in bullet points, not written by a lawyer. And I'll tell you that for a fact because I wrote it and I wanted it written in a way that any common person like myself would understand it. And so I don't think you have any questions on it. If you do, it's fine, it's good. But what we do is we don't just go from there. We ask for a phone call at that point. We want to make sure that everything is understood. There's nothing left misunderstood. We're very, very fanatical about that. This is money. This is your business. We want to make sure that you understand everything, and you will. So that's how we go.
Excellent. And I will share the URL for the AccrueMe funding estimator in the chat box. And just to let you know, I am an affiliate for AccrueMe, just to be transparent. So if you do sign up through the link, we'll get a small commission, and it helps us keep the lights on and invite great people like this so that you can attend these webinars for free. So, but if you don't want to go through the affiliate, that's fine. You can just remove the affiliate link at the end. You can go direct to AccrueMe. Totally up to you. Okay.
Come on, let's help keep the lights on.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Thanks, guys. Okay, next we have several questions about this same overall theme. Okay, someone, a Facebook user, I apologize, I don't know your name. How about an Australian PTY Limited? Sagar asked, is your financing available only to US-based LLCs? What about companies incorporating other countries, for example, UK, but selling internationally? Roz as well asked, what are the tax implications for changing business structure from Australia PTY to LLC? So what do you think, Don?
Yeah, so we can only do it with US right now. We can only do it with US-based LLCs. I don't know the tax implications, but I can tell you that we've had a number of sellers from the UK, and I'm trying to think of where else. South America, a few in the UK actually, open up LLCs in the United States and run their business that way. They have others in elsewhere. So now we're only counting inventory on Amazon.com right now. We're adding Canada and Mexico next, and then we'll go to the other countries as well. But we had to start somewhere, so we started it in the US. So yeah, we need the LLC based in the US. If you have business being done in other countries, let's say, all well and good, we have the ability in our system, and we'll show you on the video as well, to exclude that. So we don't count it in your capital, and we don't earn any profits on that. So you get 100% of it, and it just flows right through to you. So we're not making out like bandits or anything on any of that. It's meaningless to us. We want to keep expanding, but we're fairly new. We only really started talking to everybody in the last few months, maybe 3-4 months. And with COVID, we haven't been out there. There have been no conferences that we've been able to attend. So we're just starting to get the word out there. Yes, US-based only LLCs.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for clarifying. And this could be early litmus test for you, Don. I mean, there is demand out there in overseas as well, as you can see in our audience.
Oh, we've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. And next, from John Richardson, is the capital based on cash only, or does it include inventory that is already at Amazon?
It includes inventory at Amazon, plus the amount of money due from Amazon and cash in the bank.
Okay, great. And next, Stephen Lundy. Hi, Donald. Does AccrueMe profits come out of the total amount we borrow from you? Thanks.
So first off, he called me Donald. So thank you. That's my mother would be proud. So I don't really understand the question. So let me answer the question in the way I think he means it. And you tell me if I answer it correctly. So yes, AccrueMe earns a percentage of profits on the total profit, except anything that's excluded. So if you're doing business in another country, we exclude that. We don't earn anything on that. You might have a product that we don't think we want to support. We think it's going to take 12 months to sell it. We don't want to give you money for that. So we exclude that. If that sells tomorrow, you get 100% of the profit. We get nothing. I don't know if that helps, Gary. Did that answer the question?
Well, I mean, Stephen, if you can reply to us right now, if you're online, to let us know if Donald answered your question. If not, then we can clarify that.
And remember, everybody, that you can always, after the fact, my contact information, I'll give you my email, but my contact information is also in my LinkedIn profile, so you can get direct, very easily with me. But my email is simply don@accrueme.com. Very simple.
Okay. And could you spell AccrueMe?
Sure. AccruEme.com.
On at AccruEme.com. Okay.
Right.
So email Don.
If you're looking at the screen, it should be in the bottom corner. AccrueMe.
Okay. I'll type that in the chat for everyone as well. Okay.
You're good.
So, all right. So, Stephen, hopefully that answers your question. And if you guys have any other questions, we do have a couple minutes left. And then in the meantime, like to get to a couple of the pre-submitted questions, because we did have a lot from there as well. And in terms of the amount of money to borrow, Don, in your view, several people asked about, are seven-figure companies generally paying off a loan as part of their expenses in order to scale, or are most, in your experience, working without a loan? And then, how can I borrow in order to make the repayment from sales and not pay interest? What are your thoughts on that?
So every seven-figure seller that I've seen has at least one loan, at least. One we were talking with today, he's got 3 different loans, and he's going to be paying off those loans, plus with the money we're going to give him, because we're going to give him more money than he can get from those 3, and at better terms, obviously, because he's going to grow and he's looking to sell his business. So it's an interesting point here, Gary, that we didn't talk about, but a lot of the sellers, they are looking and thinking about selling their business in a year or 2 years or 3 years. And if they can grow their business using our money without making monthly payments, they're going to grow and grow and grow much faster than they ever could before, obviously. But then what happens when they sell? They're going to have a bigger company, a more profitable company. They're going to get a better multiple. They're going to make out like bandits. But what do they have to pay us? Assuming they paid us nothing so far, right? They'll have to pay us back our capital that we invested, plus our accrued profits. We get nothing on the upside. They get 100% of the upside, which they love. But here's reality. Reality of what actually happens in most cases is that in Q3 and Q4, nobody makes payments because they need money, obviously. Come February, March, April, May, June, most of the sellers seem to be flush with cash. And instead of leaving money in the bank, it just makes sense that they pay us down and we become a smaller percentage and a smaller percentage of profits while they're not earning as much money. Makes all the sense in the world. And then going back into Q3, they start saying, hey, we need more money. All right, beautiful. So it all works out well. So as far as how much money you should take, I think it was part of the question. And it goes back to something I said a little earlier. I think you take the least amount that you need. So get approved for the most that you could use, more than you need, but only take what you can actually use now. And then if it's next week, you're doing that much better and you realize you have this capital and you're working harder and you come across the right products and such, boom, you take down more. And if it's 2 months from now, you take down more. But you build into it. You don't go hog wild day one. No need. Be safe, be smart, grow smart. And once you're comfortable, you're going to grow fast because it's going to be easy. That's my advice.
Yeah. In other words, don't bite off more than you can chew, right? Don't be greedy. Yeah.
Again, you're reminding me of my mother.
Excellent. Okay. So Steven says, thank you. That's great. And we have a couple more quick questions before we end, Don. Kostas asked, can the AccrueMe capital be used for additional SKUs or only for additional inventory on existing SKUs?
Great question. So here's what we do. We don't give you money for additional SKUs, but what we do is, and by additional SKUs, meaning creating a new SKU. All right. If you're creating something new, we don't know how that's going to perform. So we look to you to take that gamble. So what we do is we'll give you money on the existing business and the existing inventory. And then you can take some of that money out to build the other products. So we have a guy, he's worth over $100 million and he's got multiple brands. He's doing very, very well. He's cashed out, multiple times and he's doing it again. And he's got 10 brands that he wants to roll out. And what he wants to do and what he is going to do is take our money from the brands that he has now, take some of it out, put it into the next new brand, build that, and then in a few months, once we see that's profitable for 2 or 3 months, it goes into the pool. So now he can take out more money for the next brand and more money to do the next 2 brands, if you will, and so forth. So he believes that he's going to build these 10 brands plus the 2 that he has, and he's going to sell the whole group in 2 to 3 years for $12.6 million without using his own money. That's his goal. And I think he's doing it more for fun than anything else, but he wants to use our money for that whole thing. Just an interesting way of doing it, but that's the way we look at it. The product has to be profitable before we can get behind it.
Excellent. Okay. Let's move on in the interest of time. Thanks, Kostas, for that question. And Ross asks, is it easier to sell an LLC versus overseas incorporated company? I'm not sure if you know about that, Don.
I really don't know, but I don't think it really matters. When somebody's buying your company, if you see what's been going on out there, they don't really care about your company. They care about your product or your brand. And that's really what they're buying. So if you've noticed what's been going on in the industry is that buy that product or brand, and they're not keeping you or your staff or anybody else. They're pretty much typically day one taking over the entire operation and running it as their own. So under their business, it's not going to be your business anymore. So I don't think it matters. That's my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Don and Roz. And we did feature Corin Woodmass. He's the FBA broker, and he's in Australia as well. He works with a number of FBA business owners. He might be a good person to ask, and let me know if you'd like me to connect with him. But that's a great question, Roz.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, I don't think we have any more questions. So
all right.
Thank you so much, Don.
My
Nancy
pleasure.
Also says thank you. If you guys are interested, I encourage you to check out AccrueMe. And again, I'll paste the link in the chat. I mean, in my opinion, especially if you're growing your business, if you're scaling your business, it makes sense to get more capital, smartly like with Don, what he said, you have a couple options on the table with credit cards, with, traditional loans with friends and family. Definitely weigh out the different options. But I do think that AccrueMe is a very innovative model because, you're not paying interest on that. You're not giving up, shares of your business, and you're only paying on your profits, which I think that's like a huge upside. And especially if you want to exit your business, as you mentioned, having that additional cash flow can really, grow your business faster. I mean, if you do invest it wisely, of course.
Right.
So I do think that that is very important. So one very quick question. I just saw it just came in right now. If we do have another minute, do you have another minute, Don?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to get to this. MLS asks, what do you mean when you say you only fund 6 months successful sellers? Can you be more specific?
Yeah, so sellers that have been selling Amazon FBA for 6 months and earning a profit. So we consider, earning a profit being successful. And it doesn't mean that you had to have earned a profit for all 6 months, but we're going to look back the last 2 or 3 months, and we're going to look at your inventory and see, we'll make a determination at that point. But, truthfully, we like to try to help the smaller guys and the newer people if we can. And so, our heart goes there, and our money has gone there. One of our best stories is a company that was in business about 6 months. I'm trying to remember, I think he had about $25,000 in capital at the time. And we initially gave him $10,000. And I just saw the numbers the other day. Over this past year, all right, he's been doing this with us for a year. His profit increased, if I remember correctly, 8-fold, and his volume increased 6-fold, which is fantastic. And his current capital was like, $50,000 or something along those lines, which I was surprised it wasn't higher. Then I looked out at how much money he pulled out of the business this past year. $107,000. So he's killing it, and God bless him. And he's come out and said there's no way in a million years he could have done it without us. And he's right. It's not. It would be impossible to have done it. But yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you again, Don, for the excellent presentation, and thank you everyone for watching. Ross says thank you.
Thanks,
and
Ross.
Wendy says thank you, Don and Gary. So highly recommend you check out AccrueMe if you are looking for capital to grow your business. Thank you everybody for coming today. If I can ask for a small favor, if you liked the 7-Figure Seller Summit, and we're doing this ongoing series just to help continue to add value to you guys, Amazon sellers, there is a poll going on right now called Seller Poll. It's put on by Danny McMillan, who runs Seller Sessions. And there is a category that we're currently ranked number 3 on for your favorite Amazon event or conference. So if this is helpful to you, I would really appreciate, I would be super grateful if you can vote for us at sellerpoll.com. They're closing their polls next week, next Wednesday. So we're currently ranked number 3. And if you feel that this has helped you, this will help more people learn about the summit going forward, and kind of help me, be more motivated to put on better content for you guys. All right. So totally, selfish ask, but if you are interested, please vote for us. All right. So thank you again. Yeah. Sellerpoll.com. Please vote. AccrueMe if you want to get some more growth capital for your Amazon business. So thank you everybody again. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Segar, and Chris Thomas, Australian seller. Good to see you. Thanks, guys. Okay. Thank you again, Don. Have a great night. Stay safe and good luck with your businesses. Take care.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Gary.